So I want to have that nice rounded pill shape to give it the modern look. So there's a couple ways we can go about this. I'm going to try this method where I can add, I'm just going over to add an anchor point, and I'm just going to add an anchor point right there in the middle. And I'm going to get my direct selection tool. I'm just going to push that up a little bit where I want the curve to start. And then you can take this and drag it down and make it rounded. You can do that method, or you can grab the curvature tool. And all you have to do is double click that top and it'll convert it to a rounded shape. Or double click, you convert it back. So if you kind of want the arrow look, you can just keep it that way. Or if you want the soft pill look, just double click and you'll have that added. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. And then take our curvature tool and double. There's a lot of different ways to do this, lots of different ways to skin a cat when it comes to doing design work. If you have a better method, please go for it, but this is just one that worked out best here. So we have the basics of our infographic here. Go ahead and load it in. And I thought that since this is such a simple fact, what I think would really work well is a photo of some sort, maybe a black and white to counter all the different colors we have going on. So a cool black and white photo that really kind of has a tongue, perhaps, maybe one that's sticking out. And I'm going to go over to Pexels.com, which is where I find a lot of my free photos I can use. And I went ahead and downloaded this one right here. And I went into Photoshop and I punched out the background because I'm going to be putting it on a dark background. So I did some clever ways of cutting all that out, which I can go over in other lessons and other classes. But I'm going to bring that in. As you can see, I made this photo black and white. I upped the contrast a little bit to provide more of a pop out against the dark background. And I thought it'd be neat to go ahead and use this. I thought I could have her kind of coming out of the circle like she's inside the circle. So maybe having her hair coming on top, but having her cropped here on the bottom. So it almost looks like she's coming out of the circle, just kind of adding kind of some more interesting design elements to make this somewhat kind of simple, boring fact kind of really stand out and be kind of visually stunning. So let's go ahead and get her into the circle. Let's go ahead and size her up. Drag her in there. We can see kind of where we want her hair to go. We don't want her so big that she's overwhelming the 50-50 pie. We don't want her so small that her hair doesn't get a chance to kind of come out and really make it look like a 3D piece. So let's make it a little bit bigger. Perhaps her hair goes all the way out above this area, this top area. And so let's crop her. So let's grab our ellipse tool and let's just, doesn't have to be exact as long as you're kind of close. Let's go ahead and bring our ellipse tool here. We want to crop her right about there. Just find the right area to crop her. So here's the thing, we want to crop this out, but we don't want to crop her hair. We want her hair to remain on top. So I'm going to take the direct selection tool and bring this up. Just going to go click it, bring it up. We want to keep that hair. So kind of an odd thing we're doing here, but I'm going to go ahead and keep all that hair. I might need to add an anchor point. There we go. So I wanted to keep kind of crop that area, but I wanted to keep her hair on top. So here's kind of our odd shape we made to kind of almost like an egg shape. I'm going to go ahead and make that a different color so you can kind of see. So we're just going to do a clipping mask. So I'm going to select our top layer, select our photo underneath, I'm going to right click and do a very simple clipping mask. So that went ahead and clipped her. You can always take the direct selection tool with any clipping mask, and you can always go back and adjust it after you've clipped it. So now we have her popping out. We have the dynamic colors. We kind of have the 50-50. We can shift this any way we want. So we can go ahead and group these together if we wanted to. And we can spin these, though maybe they're not just half and half, that maybe they kind of have a diagonal presentation. Kind of shakes it up a little bit. Or you can keep it half and half so it's kind of more clear that it is a 50%. So that's up to you as the infographic designer, what you think communicates 50% the most. I kind of like a little bit of a diagonal twist to it, just to kind of show a more dynamic pop. It still looks like 50% to me. So let's add the 50% somewhere on here. We really want to communicate that very clearly. So let's go ahead and grab this 50%. We have our Helvetica bold on, and we have up here's kind of some guidance we have for typography. And we're going to make that a little bit bigger and white. Let's find a place we can place this that doesn't distract from her face. So we can probably get away with putting on our hair. It's nice high contrast, so that's dark. This is light. I don't want it too close to her eyes because I don't want the eyes in this to compete. So I'm just going to move that a little bit higher up. And maybe add a little bit of drop shadow. Maybe go into the character panel and kind of reduce the tracking a little bit. Maybe a negative 25%. So kind of closes in the letters, the gaps between the letters or the numbers closes a little bit. So it's a little bit tighter. Not very subtle stuff here we're talking about. Let's do a nice long cast shadow. So I'm going to send my drop shadow options panel, and let's do a preview, and it's already kind of cast pretty far out, pretty high opacity. Just helps darken around it so it really stands out along her hair. But it's not obvious that it's a drop shadow. It has a lot of distance to it, and it's got a lot of blur to it. So it's not like you see this super stark drop shadow. It looks more kind of blended in over top of her. And same thing for here. We can even add a drop shadow on this top layer. We can go to Effect, apply the same drop shadow. Let's take a look at the preview. Kind of adds a drop shadow down there, which looks really lovely. Maybe reduce it a little bit, maybe 44%, so it's not so strong. Click OK. So that kind of added a nice little drop shadow effect down there. Just once again adding more of that layered kind of interactive. It's not just a flat kind of design. There's layers, there's shadows, that type of thing. Let's do the same thing with the top one. I'm not sure if it'll look as good, but let's go ahead and try it out. So that's great. We can even apply it to her, but then again it might do the drop shadow right there. So that could be a neat look. That's another kind of shadow here that you can use, or you can just have it plain. So now we need to add the text because we have 50%, but 50% what? It's nothing without the rest of the sentence. So we could go ahead and bring this in. Let me just copy and paste it just in case I want to play and experiment with it. So let's make this white. Okay, so we can have this straight across as 2 lines. Maybe center align it. And we just have it here. We can have it stacked with several lines of type. And this is going to depend on how our blocking and layout for the rest of the document goes. So we could have something simple like this. And that could be the same look throughout all the rest of the document. And that's great, but I thought, you know, this is a very dynamic piece. We got a lot of colors going on. Let's try something a little bit more graphically challenging. Let's do a type on path all the way around a circle. Let's do that. So we're going to do a circle about the same width as our little pie graph here. Okay, so now I'm just going to copy and paste this. I can put this all in the same line, or I guess I have it up here. That's nice. I can always slide that over just in case I don't like this new method. And I can go down to type on path and go ahead and click anywhere on the line and paste it. See how it looks. So what I want to do is I don't want all bold text. I don't want all bold text because I think we already have a very bold picture and a very bold 50%. So let's make this white so you can see what I have here. Let's make this a regular weight or even a lightweight, just like this. And notice how it's on the outside of the circle. I'd like to bring it on the inside of the circle so I can put it on the bottom of the text and it's not going to read backwards. So I can rotate this and then now it reads backwards or upside down. We don't want to have that. So I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to reach right to this little area and just shift it inside. That could be a little tricky sometimes, but I switch it to the inside. And let's place it on right there. We might need to make some adjustments. And with the size, this is an 8.5 by 11 inch document. So you might use the metric system, you might have different sizes, but for this case, usually 9 points works really well with readability. You don't really want to have text below 8. So why don't we do one up from that and do 9 points? And that should give us a lot more room to work with our type. That really reduced the size quite a bit. Now I want to make sure we have it halfway. You know, we might be able to get away with it being just a little bit bigger. That's never going to hurt with readability. Okay, so we just want to do a little optical adjustment, make sure it's halfway. I might need to just adjust it a little bit, but it's about even on both sides. And we can highlight a particular item, so we want to highlight 50%, or we want to highlight taste buds. I think the most important word here is taste buds. That's what we're talking about. That's what the fact's about. I think we could even make that type a little bigger to really emphasize it, and also change the weight to make it bolder. And going a step further, we can even make this a green or a purple to really kind of bring it out. So I'm going to double click this and see if I can't find a matching green. And so notice the taste buds really come out, 50% taste buds. I know that this infographic immediately is talking about taste buds and something about 50%. So I'm already starting to put it together without reading it. That's exactly the power of infographics, is understanding what it is before actually reading the whole thing. So let's make this a little bit bigger and just do some little minor tweaks and adjustments to see if we can't make it a little better. But I think just in about 15 minutes we're able to put together this one. We got several more to go, but I'm going to try different methods and different techniques all throughout this to kind of show you different ways you can present infographics. So this is a very simple one. As we work through these, some of these get a little more complex, especially the ones with the large numbers. We can find creative ways to present large numbers that make it look a little more enticing.